We are live on Facebook. Hello, Facebook friends. It's going to be a particularly enjoyable and possibly crunchy
Wild.
episode of Straight Talk. We got two wild women and one Scott here.
Wild, Scott.
Emily Oram is back. Well, she never went away, but she's back in this immediate Zoom experience. And Trish, and we're talking about a crunchy topic, how to handle relationships with exes. And it's hard sometimes. I'm going to make one statement and then I'm going to turn it over to each of you for like an opening statement. And if you see any of us looking down at our phones, it's not that we're bored. It's that we're probably sharing it out or checking to see what some of the thoughts and comments are. And we would like to hear any thoughts, comments that any of you might have. So, and you can also come back, you can come into the Zoom room, and I'll post the Zoom room link. It's also on my Facebook profile page. So if any of you go to my Facebook profile, you'll see it. So, my opening thought is that when we've been close to anybody, whether it's romantic or friendship, any form of love, and we have anger or hurt, it's in direct proportion to the love that we're missing. That any anger or hurt that we have about a previous relationship or a relationship that's changed, it's in absolute direct proportion to the love that we are missing. That's my opening thought. And I'm going to keep the spotlight on the two of you and remove the spotlight on myself. Well, actually, let's see, I'll put it on Emily first. For your opening thought. Oh, you're muted.
Oh, thank you. Hello, everybody. Nice to see everybody. Looking forward to connecting with you all and hearing your thoughts and questions. I definitely have to say that you really brought a lot of this into my reality. Because often when we see the pain, all we think of is the pain, right? All we think of is all the hurt. We think of is like all the ways they didn't see us, or they can't hear us, or we can't fix it, and then the shift is where I start to become aware of like, oh wow, they're feeling that much because they want to be loved, or they feel that they aren't loved. And it's this like direct like pivot into the compassion piece, and the understanding of how the more pain we have, it's because there is a sense of loss of love and a desire for love. That's the pivot point, is loss of love, and then wow, this part of me that so misses them or so longs to be loved, and it's not here anymore. So I guess I just want to say how those two really work in tandem, because you can't often see it when all you can look at is the pain.
Trish, what's your opening thought on this topic?
God, I'm just really enjoying you both so much. What you're saying is, and I also just kind of want to bring in a piece about self-sourcing, because I mean that's my whole shtick as well. And it is really sitting in the compassionate place for that other person. Like that person has needs that they have that want to be met by you, and you also have that too, right? And so these places of discomfort or unrest, or the unmet need that's like grasping to be met in the pain of a separation, is really stepping in and being like, wow, what is it that I want here, and what can I do for me, and also what can I actually offer them, and what can they offer me, like realistically in their pain, and really being able to hold both yours and theirs. Mm-hmm. And being able, like, what I mean, like literally holding it, like holding you in them. Like, what's that? What is it that you teach, Scott? You're just like, can't you just hold each other for a little while?
Holding exercise, right? That's something Emily and I developed that in our relationship, and then we started teaching that to the couples that we worked with, and still do.
Yeah, I mean, I came into working with you and flowing into the mentorship group when I was with a previous partner who I was also in Emily's course too, and that just wasn't working. We were already too far in wanting to be right in our pain. Make that one wrong for their
wanting to be right in your pain. There it is.
Yeah, so that statement right there, that's something that has me look at how tightly we want to hold on to the pain to protect ourselves. And the more we do that, we think it's helping us, but it's actually really causing greater amounts of separation, suffering, and disconnection from ourselves and the world. When we hang out in righteous anger or indignation of someone doing, not behaving the way that we want, or not being the way they want, or somehow, we've offended them and we're this enemy, literally what we're doing is we're taking our heart and closing it down and being like, it's better to be angry and shut off my heart than be willing to feel the pain and lean into love. That's it. It's like, because that's what it is. You got to feel the pain to move into love. They're intrinsically connected. Like, I would not be able to be on this call with Scott right now if I hadn't chose to literally say, I'm willing to feel the fucking excruciating heartbreak that's here. I'm willing to feel the ways that it didn't work and the ways that I'm sad about it, and whatever my stories are, and go, and I still want to love this man. And there are times where I was like, I want to do that, but I'm not ready, or I need more space. Like, that's the thing, is like, you can have boundaries and be in hell of pain and still choose love. And that's, I think, what I really want to touch on tonight is that the importance of, with an ex, honoring your threshold of how much pain or discomfort you can be with your ex, where you then become into that place of like, I'm about to rip your head off right now, or get away from me, I'm done, like, I don't want you out of my life. Like, before we go into those places, to be like, I can't connect anymore tonight. I can't connect. Let's take a little space, and I need to move through some more pain, and I will be back to you when I feel like I can hold me and choose love.
Yeah. So I'm loving that we're going in that direction, and hopefully catching, to what degree am I creating and focusing on judgment of this person in order to protect my ego and in order to separate? And can we, even when we've reached that point where we need to separate, we need to set a boundary, we need to take a time out, and maybe it's even a big time out, can we do that and still respect that person, have love for that person, and not fall into the rather childish way of judging them? Remember how when we were little kids in elementary school and we were first developing friendships, you'd go from being best friends to worst enemies to best friends, like in a day, right? Or you'd number, like, okay, you're my third best friend, it's all these, and it's very elementary school, trying to figure out how to have relationships, right? But relationships do change. And we do go from being best friends to taking space. But can we do that without the judgmental piece?
I want to riff just on that piece, because what I like to do is go, wow, I'm a judgmental bitch right now. Like, I am in massive amounts of judgment. I think when I'm in my angry victim, what I do is I just call it out. I call it out in myself. I am in my angry, judgmental bitch, and what do I need to do? I need to just like stomp around the house and just say, nah, 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 and just rant it out, and make sure that nobody's in harm's way, right? Make sure I got the space to let out the energy. And then what happens usually is, if I do that enough, I usually can start to access my grief or my fear. there's some kind of grief or there's some kind of fear. Usually if I get that anger out enough, I'm like, wow, what am I really scared of? I'm scared that I'm never going to see that person again, or I'm never going to have them in my life again. Or I'm scared that they are going to spread all these lies about me. How we broke up and how I'm a horrible partner, and like I'm so scared, and I'm basically, instead of saying that, I'm calling you name calling,
A preemptive strike, kind of like a preemptive strike.
Yeah. Protective mechanism. And I mean, just for everyone out there watching, like, who resonates with this? Like, anyone? I mean, yeah, I mean, I've done this so many times where I'm just like, I'm super freaking scared or frightened, and I don't know where to put it, right? I mean, there's tips and tools, and there's like things that you can do that any of us three can walk you through. I know that, like, fabulous, amazing love coaches here. And really finding that place of really just allowing yourself to feel it, to process it, to access those points. Like, really, like, if you want to continue to keep stuffing your feelings, the only thing that's going to happen is explosions. Like, it really is just it. And just to, point at what Emily was saying, it really is like, okay, go be a fucking bitch. Do the thing. I'm going to go and throw my fit. I'm going to pound on the pillows. I'm going to do whatever it is that I need to do. I'm going to be angry. And then when I finally get that out of my system, I'm just going to stop. I'm going to drop in, use the self-empathy tool, right? Get into the center of my being. And what is it that I really fucking want? Because this person doesn't need any of that. Like, who knows what their triggers or traumas are? Oh, speaking of, just to out myself a little bit, last night I had this experience where I wanted to run, and I was like, I called it out. I was like, I want to run away right now. And the person I was with was like, don't. And I was like, you can do it with me, but I'm actually going to put my phone down. And I got everything out of my pockets, and I just ran. I just ran away. That person was also running with me.
Oh, wow.
And I stopped at a certain point, and I got it all out of my system, like all of the adrenaline that was just making me irrational and unable to connect. And I sat there, and I turned around, and I was like, okay, I'm back, and I'm ready again. So, and I think that that's a really special place to be, is to actually let your human do whatever it is you're humaning. Like, okay, I have this thought. I just want to drop this in. I know this is really random. I've been thinking about all these practices that we do, and I'm like, the only practice that we're actually doing is practicing being human. Like, this is it. Because my body does whatever it wants to do, and I'm just practicing trying to, like, keep up with it. So the practice of just being with my body as it does whatever it does, because we're going to have triggers and traumas, and we're also going to have the upsets and the chemicals that come up through your body, and to be able to sit in with compassion with Emily or with Scott in his fear and her fear and her anger, which is likely fear, right? Like, we know that these are the places that are really within us. Can you express yourself in nonviolent ways? Can you separate your being from your ex or from your current partner or from your housemate or whoever it is, and to just be like, okay, I gotta go process this whole thing. I'm gonna come back when I can love you and love. Wait, what is it? Boundaries are the place where you can love yourself and the other person at the same time. Ooh, that was a long one.
No, I mean, I'm just delighting in both of you. And, it's interesting. I'll speak vulnerably since we're kind of doing that. I just noticed that for me, when I think about my relationships that have ended, in my significant relationships over the last few years, really going all the way back to the death of my wife, and then I've had 3 significant relationships since then, I just have this overwhelming sadness. I can't find too much anger towards Emily or too much anger towards the other 2 women that I have been really close to and connected with. But I just find all this sadness that, and the missing, I guess it's what I said at the beginning, the missing the love, missing that connection, missing that quality of connection that was shared, so for me, I just noticed that there's like this kind of ongoing angst that's like a slow sadness, like oh yeah, there's that sadness there, and I could really drive into it, but it's more just kind of like I guess like people who have low grade anxiety, right? That's just always kind of there.
Low
I
grade.
can find, yeah, there's like a low grade sadness that's always there. And I've never said that or even had that awareness until the last couple of minutes. So,
I, I think I'd like to say that if we do our emotional work and allow ourselves to feel the layers, like usually for a lot of people, it's anger is the top thing, right? It's the
that's
top.
the cover emotion.
Right. And you penetrate that and you think about all the things that you did and you didn't get back, or all the ways that you wanted this person to be your long-term partner, and you chose them more than they chose you, and all your fucking stories. And you really feel your anger, and you're like, wow, I'm missing I'm missing that person, or I'm really disappointed because I wanted it to work out and it hasn't.
Yeah.
I really wanted this relationship to work out. I wanted to be close and it hasn't worked out. So it's like you work down, like underneath the stories, you start to get in, like, oh wow. You start to get into the grief, the desire, the longing, the lack, right? That sense of lack and like longing that live together, which is right where missing is.
Mhm.
I miss you is something that is not commonly said, I believe, and not commonly acknowledged. Even with exes, like and you said that to me. I miss, I miss our nurturing.
Yeah.
I miss our cuddling. I miss, and that it takes a lot of like vulnerability to go there
Yeah.
and say that to an ex and just be, like, and feel okay about that, like still expressing our sadness and the lack and what we're missing and longing for.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
You're muted, Trish.
I also just want to bring in a point that I think that there, and yes, it takes so much strength and courage to be, I miss you. And there's a whole social construct there as well that, to tell someone that you miss them is like needy. And I mean, there's like a whole other aspect about that too.
Further, the other person go self-source. Go self-source.
Or like, I think it's also kind of like, I just want to say a lot of monogamy programming. I just want to presence that, which is basically when our relationship is over, I don't talk to you, I don't express my emotions, and I certainly don't express like my desire and the
Right.
lack of it. Like I really would love to, for us to get together and cuddle, and I know that that's not available anymore, and I miss it.
Mhm.
Right, like that's huge. And I think it's a lot of it's because there's this monogamy programming where it's just like, if we're not together and we had a deep emotion, we're done. You're out of my life. You're gone.
Yeah, well, I'm experiencing that. The relationship I had after Emily, that person has completely ghosted me, completely blocked me, and it wasn't like we had a big fight. There was a kind of a mutual decision to take space, and the next thing I know, I'm blocked and cut out, and I've reached out a few times at holidays and birthdays, nothing back, and it's weird. It's just so different from my way of being, you know. It's like, hey, come on, we share deep intimacy, deep love. Can't we at least wish each other happy birthday, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year? How are you doing? How are you making out with the pandemic? How's your family? You know?
Nobody's making out with the pandemic. I just want you to know. A little thing. Just is.
No French kissing with the pandemic, right? So have either of you ever been ghosted, or have either of you chosen to ghost?
So yes and yes. Um, just to be really honest.
Yeah.
I don't do the ghosting as much anymore. That was more coming from a place of this weird head trip about not wanting to hurt someone. And what I understand now is that actually loving them and respecting them means that you're going to be honest and tell the truth. Whatever your truth is. It's not about, like, oh, I'm so afraid of hurting you. No, I'm like, let's get real about it. I'm so afraid of being in my own discomfort about your feelings that I'm just going to walk away. Like, okay, there's no need to be in that space. There's places where it looks like now for me where, gosh, I'm just like feeling this right now. There's places where I've had to walk away again. And that's so hard because as much compassion as you can hold for someone doesn't necessarily mean that they can actually hold that compassion for you either. And if they're looking to pick a fight, and if they're looking to drop the blame, then it's at that point you have to like look at your own boundaries. And so I've had to in some cases be like, oh, we're doing our pattern again, and I'm actually not willing to participate. And I'm sorry, and I love you. I'm walking away now again.
It's so courageous to be able to be that honest and authentic in setting boundaries. It's like, I think that's the thing most of us just don't know how to do. And so if we don't know how to set a boundary, we do all these weird push pull games. A big one too is, this is something to really understand too. If you are scared of rejection, if you have an abandonment wound and you start leaning into someone and you start to get so scared that they're going to reject you or abandon you, leave you in some way, then I will do that to them first before they do it to me, by basically finding what's wrong with them or just like, ghosting them. Essentially, that's what came up, ghosting them. Right? I'm going to leave and walk away because I'm so scared that they won't love me and they're going to see the horrific bad parts of me. Right? So I'm going to pull my power, which is coming from my fear, right? My fear and shame. And then I'm going to pull I'm just going to walk away. I didn't really like this person, or, it didn't work out, or something wrong with them, or something, or whatever the story is. So really, I guess the thing is, before we make that move, before we either need to set a boundary, walk away, or we don't want to be with this person in some way, or we need to take space, is we start to like tune into that. And then we go, what's really going on with me? What do I need? Like, do I need to like share with them that I'm scared in this way, before I just take the power and cut you out? Or do I need some space because I can't manage my feelings and stay connected to you? What do I need? And it's like that core, going back to those core needs underneath my behavior is an attempt to meet a need. What's the need and how can I get it met? If it's like, if there could be any ninja move, it's like, what's the core need or desire? How can I get it met?
Yes.
What are the possibilities of getting it met here? Because there's more than one possibility. I can make a request to that person. I can take care of that part of me within.
I want to acknowledge just briefly some of the comments. I'll go back to gallery view for a minute. Cherokee says, yes, I throw fits, lots of laughs, going back to a little while ago. Cassandra Ross says, yes, lack of communication is awful. I agree. I don't know quite how to pronounce it. Gabriella Davidasi says, beautifully said, Trish. And Graham says, wow, this is a very interesting topic. Talking to exes. Wow, I love it. So thank you. And we always appreciate people's comments and any thoughts, questions. So let me bring up another topic about exes. Managing your relationship to exes when you're in a new relationship. And Do we never talk about them? Do we pretend that they never existed? Do we pretend I was a virgin until I met you? Right? I mean, obviously, that's to the far extreme, but they're like, what's the protocol and how do you figure that out? To what degree do we talk about our past and acknowledge our past and maintain relationships to our past when there's somebody new in the picture? And so I'm going to turn that over to both of you because both of you are in relationship. So yeah, how do you handle that?
Wow, what a dynamic and huge topic to cover. So I think it's important when we're in our current relationship that we have consideration and consent around talking about our ex or previous partners. That's the first step. Because what happens is there's no consent and consideration about talking about it. And it's like, now I'm just in a core wound and I'm talking about not only Bill, but Paul and all these, and I'm just like, and like my partner's getting triggered, and I'm like, wait, did I create a container to like, go into this with them? Like, do they need anything? Like, is this okay? So consideration of like, when we talk about our exes is check in with our current partner and be like, hey, I'd love to share this about my ex. I have a lot of feelings coming up. Can you hold space? I'd love to get your feedback. I have an issue coming up with my ex and I'm trying to figure out how to handle it. If you need help from your current time partner, like ask them if they're willing to give that to you. Create consent, create the container rather than just like not creating that consideration. And then what happens is there's no ability to have boundaries if need be, right? Like maybe my partner's like, hey, I can like maybe hear about Paul for maybe 15 minutes and I'll see how I feel, see how I manage my triggers, and then I might set a boundary. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, or like, I think like right now is not a good time. I don't think I have enough gas in the tank, or I want to hear about, your ex right now. Can you talk to someone else? Mm-hmm. Right? Like, can you go get help from someone else? Because this is going to be too triggering for me. No.
Absolutely. Trish, what are your thoughts on this?
Thinking about that. My previous partner, we came up with like to like that whole thing that you just said. We came up with a term, consensual conversation. Are you available for a consensual conversation? And it would just really be like, do you have capacity right now for this, a deep conversation? And so I love that. And I wish that as human beings, we all could be as conscious enough to ask for that space when you're like, oh my God, there's all this stuff coming up and I really need to talk about it. Can you hold me here? And they're like, what am I getting myself into? I wish it looked like that. And I love it so much because the more you practice, the more you can get into that. I love that. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Emily, for that. I also just want to say that I try not to call my the other ones my ex. I don't know. It just sounds ouchy. Like it's like pokies in some way. I'm like, ooh, my ex. I'm like, eh! And I try to call them my previous partners.
Yeah, that's an extra. Previous partners is good.
Yeah, I like that too. Sometimes
PP for short. My PP.
Oh, I don't know if that's gonna go well, Scott. I use the term husband.
Yeah, husbands are good.
Husband, so that's one that I use. But I think you said X too in your thing because it's good promo.
Oh yeah.
It's like it's a good promo hot button. Right? Like if you saw how do you handle your previous partners, how do you handle your ex?
Right. Yeah, it's true. Right? Look, it's straight talk. We want to get people to watch. So. I think too obviously I think most of the people that are watching us and the level that we're kind of playing at, there's a certain level of maturity. And talking about previous partners is very valuable in a consensual conversational way where both people are everyone's resourced. So you can learn, hey, you know what? I still have pain around such and such. I notice that I'm still tender or vulnerable because this is something that took place in a previous relationship that I still have tenderness around, or I still, it's a little crunchy for me. And being able to share it from that place, again, is a valuable thing to know, because in a healthy relationship, we are safe to share our vulnerabilities, to share our kryptonite, so that our new partner understands that and understands why Trish wants to pick up and run or whatever it might be,
And safe to express our desires. Not, vulnerability does include desire. So it's like, I still notice that I do have a certain amount of feeling for myself. I still, there's still some like desire. I want them, them in my life in some way. Like that's a big piece to actually say to your previous partner.
Yeah.
I still have desire here, and that's not often talked about because there's a lot of shame. It's not okay to have desire for your ex, previous partner, right? It's like when they are done, when your relationship's done, they are done though. And so just like I think whether you're monogamous or you're polyamorous, that I'd like to just like lift off that context. Just let's take it off and just be like, look, we have a heart here. It's called a heart. You can't make your love go away for somebody. Like, I mean, you could try, but like if you've had a long-term relationship with somebody, like that love is not going away.
Yeah.
Oh, I just, it's so true. Thank you for bringing that in as well. I mean, I love all of my exes.
Yeah. I mean, once I've loved somebody, I never stop loving them. I might not want to partner with them anymore. I might not want to live with them, but I never stop loving them, and again, it's important for us to be able to own that, because you're right. There's in a lot of social circles, there is that, oh, well, you're no longer together, therefore either I'm going to completely ghost that person or disconnect from that person, or only remember why we broke up or why it didn't work out, and
I just want to say, like, I am really proud of myself because my current partner has a challenged ex that he's been in communication with. And there are times where I'm like, babe, like, why do you keep leaning in? Like, I know it's challenged and it's really hard. Like, why do you keep, and he's trying to find his boundaries with it, right? But there's like my threshold of discomfort. And he keeps saying to me, he's like, this person's important to me. I want to try to figure out how to relate. And I'm trying to figure out what my boundaries are. But like, I keep wanting to give her a chance. I keep wanting to see if we can have that communication, see if like, she can come out of her like judgment a little bit and we can go into that vulnerability. Like, and it's making progress, And so I'm like supporting him, but I'm like managing my discomfort, right? But also finding like, as I manage my discomfort, that like, you're amazing, babe. You're amazing. Like, look at you go. Like, she's like struggling in her stuff and you're not buying into it. And you're like holding that love for her. I'm like, wow, that says a lot about you.
Yeah.
So that's how do we, when our current partner is handling an ex, how do we like manage our own discomfort in relation to that and still choose love and connection?
Well, what needs are needing to be met there?
Right? Like for me, or for,
I mean, in general, and if you want to talk about it, yes. What's like, there's needs that are causing the discomfort, like, right? So, I mean, we all know how it all drops down in. So the discomfort is a direct pointer, right? So if I want, here's an, I'm not going to poke with you. Like if I want, okay, what happened with my ex is that we developed a friendship over a friend's death. And I was like, ooh, we get to be friends now. This might be fun. And I really showed up in compassion. And that person at a certain point, I just picked the wrong day to be like, so really what's going on? And that person was like, you ruined my life. And you're the reason why I can't trust love again. And I didn't know what to do, right? And so my need for respect and for just being able to, for autonomy, and also there's a need for ownership on both sides, I guess, I don't know, mutuality wasn't being met at all. And it just became a thing, right? So instead of being able to like, oh, my need for mutuality and respect isn't being met here and I need to take more space, it was you are overwhelming, I'm overwhelming, let's just stop for a second, right? So what is the need under the discomfort that you want to be met, right?
Yeah, I think in this case with my ex, it is for, let's see here, for probably harmony and ease. Like if I see a lot of conflict, it's disturbing my partner, and also for connection. And so then what happens is he starts to be more disconnected. So then I feel less disconnected. So yeah, harmony, connection, ease, partnership.
Everybody who's watching, are you following along here? Like her and I just did this amazing thing together. We just dropped in and really expressed out what our wants and needs are. And what happens from this point is that you can make really powerful requests with your partner or with your friends or with the previous partners of your partners or whatever. And that's like a space. Because people want belonging, right? They want connection. Even the ex's ex or whatever, like whatever wild circle you're in, we all want to feel connected in some way and want to belong. And they have needs and they have needs, right? So you want to
So
know.
I just want to say, like, let's wrap into it. So, like, a couple requests out of this situation that I've made of my partner are I would like to, again, more consideration and consent around talking about some of the discomfort that you're having with talking with your ex.
Mhm.
So, like, I'd like some more check in before you say, it was a hard call today, and like we talked about this, and what's happening in their relationship. So, consent and consideration, checking in, and also, would he be willing to back off the level of communication that he's had with her, because it's starting to have a real impact on him, and then he's a little bit, in my perception, less available in our connection. So those were the two requests.
How loving those requests are. How powerful, right?
It takes a lot of courage. Like for me, that takes more courage to do that than to like find the need.
But I'm imagining it also requires a lot of self-reflection because there's so many layers. Is there a part of me that's being overly protective of him? Is
Right.
there a part of me that's jealous? Is there a part of me fear that he's going to get so caught up that then it's going to take him out, which is going to take me out? So there's all the different things you got to look at, to take into consideration, right?
All of the above. And again, to not make any of those parts bad or wrong, but to understand they have needs, and it's important for us to feel held in a relationship. Like, it's important for me to make those requests if it's important to me, and then it's important for me to let go if my partner like has a boundary around something. If he's like, hey babe, like I will, I'm good to meet the consent and consideration and check in at this time. I hear you, but I don't want to lighten up the conversation and connection right now. I'm like, we're in a dynamic process, but I'm willing, you know. So then I'm like, okay, his needs. And then, so then we might get into a fight there, right? However, where can we lean in and work together? Like maybe where's his willingness to stretch and meet me? You know, it sounds like it might have been a hard boundary, but I'm like, then I would be in the conversation of, babe, like, I hear you want this. I want this. Where can we find a win?
Mm-hmm.
How can we collaborate? And sometimes that takes a while to figure out. Sometimes there isn't always a win that feels mutually rewarding, and that's hard. That's where we got to mourn. You know, feel our pain together, and then how what are the other ways that we can take care of each other? How else can we find love in this situation? That's all my go-to. More cuddling, more like, you know, like more words of affirmation, more like what's available here.
Yeah. There is something that dropped into my head, looked a little like, we're really blessed. We're all really blessed here and really privileged to be able to have studied and practiced nonviolent communication and ways to get your needs met in healthy, vibrant ways, right? So you and your partner, I assume, have an ability to drop into the wants and needs and be able, like, hey, my need for being unique is not being met right now. Is there a way that you might be able to do that for me? I'm going to go self-source it first and try my best, but I'm also going to ask when there's that place. So just bringing that piece in. And I would love to just point to Scott, because I know that he has someone who's really amazing and special who's been doing this, right? Who's had an experience where they've a couple is separated and you've helped them come back together in a really loving and compassionate place. This is what Love Coach Academy teaches you to do, right? Not only to help people go through it, but also to practice it yourself.
Yeah. Are you pointing to me bringing Krishna on? Is that?
It's kind of an idea, because it just kind of moved into it naturally. I don't know.
All right. I'm promoting Krishna as panelist. If he wants to come on. So Krishna, I am, here he comes.
Well, here's the thing is we're not all, like, it's not natural. Like, I don't know if anyone else grew up with nonviolent communication parents, but I didn't. Okay. I didn't grow up this way. I'm learning it. And it's literally daily practice. It's practice with Scott. It's practice with my partner. It's practice with my friend. It's like literally practice all the time. And that's what I'm trying to get to, is like, even if you want to have a good connection with your ex, like, you'd want to practice with other people too. And I really want to hear about what Krishna has to say, because I think that this is an important piece of coming from a place that was like, to, right?
My dogs are like playing, so I'm trying to go in and out of meetings. So if you hear barking, that's what's going on. So welcome, Krishna, dear friend from Australia. Emily and I have actually been to Australia and visited Krishna together, and then I was there a couple years later. And just briefly to set up for anybody watching, I met Krishna kind of towards the end of a relationship he was in with a woman that he had had 2 children with. And I've played a role as coach to Krishna and to his previous partner. And they've gone through some crunchy time, sharing 2 children, some very crunchy time. But she sent me a photograph at Christmas Day of the 4 of them in front of a Christmas tree saying, "Thank you, Scott. If it wasn't for the work we did with you, this picture would never have taken place." So that was, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. So Krishna, what have you learned about managing relationship with a previous partner?
Hello, Scott. Hello, Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. Gosh, I have learned so much. So, look, I have been a client now of Scott. It's probably 5 years.
Yeah.
And over this time, I've learned so much about relating. And interestingly, the place we've been playing with this relating is actually in an ex relationship. And a lot of people say, Krishna, why do you want a relationship with your ex? And the answer is we have children together, 2. And we separated when our youngest child was 2. You might be able to just see us all in the background there. That was the photo Scott was talking about. Maybe I need to move out of the way. There you go. We separated when we had our youngest child, who was 2, and our eldest child is 4. And I've had primary care of our children for the last however many years, 5 years. And for me, it was important that my children have a relationship with their mother. And I didn't want my relationship with her to get in the way. And it's not an easy journey by any stretch. It's been a tough journey. And Scott's been beside us every step of the way. So some things I've learned. We've got to create a new relationship with them. It's a different kind of love. It's no longer I'm in love with them. It's now I love them. And we need to find new ways of communicating with each other. And where this gets really tricky is whatever my needs are that this person can't meet or wasn't able to meet when we're together, that sometimes I'm sore at them over, I need to learn how to meet that on my own. Don't look to her to meet it anymore. You know what? If I didn't feel love when we're together, don't try and feel love now, because it ain't going to happen. Self-source that one. Okay.
I want to briefly riff on something you said one step back.
Yeah.
Which Emily had mentioned briefly earlier today, but it's really powerful. Krishna, in our work together with his previous partner, consistently had the courage to say, I love you. I care about you. And she, for quite a while, consistently would react negatively to that, for fear that it meant he was trying to get together or he wanted more from her. And I really appreciate your courage in maintaining, because you were not trying to get back together, you weren't expressing romantic love, but you stayed courageous in acknowledging, even though we're not together, and I'm not trying to get back together with you romantically, I do love you, I do care about you. And finally, I've watched her slowly, and it's taken a long time, be able to be present with that and not go into a knee-jerk reaction against the expression of your love. So I just want to acknowledge your courage. And I'm also saying it to people out there because sometimes we are courageous to express our love and the other person isn't ready to receive it or gets scared by it or freaked out by it. And it's beautiful to stay in your own integrity, in your own truth, regardless of what the reaction might be. So I just wanted to add that.
No, thank you, Scott.
I think.
So, Emily, you're about to say something?
Yeah, I think when someone says I love you to us, our knee-jerk reaction is, okay, now I have to love them back. Like I have to give them something back to receive this love. And I can't just open my heart and receive it and just allow myself to welcome that in. They're going to want something from me and it's not my truth. So then I have a fear of engulfment. Like I have a fear of losing myself, because then if I receive this love, he's going to want that love back and it's not safe, right? I need to protect myself.
Mm-hmm. Emily, you are spot on. And the way I have learned to work through what for me was a wall that my previous partner put up was I actually had to learn what her values are today, not what the values were when she was with me, but what her values are today. And I needed to look through the wall to see those values. And that's really hard. And actually just accept her the way she is. And in my instance, I discovered that one of her highest values is freedom.
Freedom and autonomy.
And it's just like, oh, okay. Well, you know what? I've got our children here and you're free to connect with them whenever you want. And the more you want to, I think the better. But whatever you can give, it's up to you. That's your relationship with the children. And it's like, oh, okay. So I'm not projecting on her. I'm stating my wishes. I'm stating my desires. I'm even making requests, but I'm not projecting my values on her.
It takes so much work to get there. I just want to say, like, thank you for the work that it's taken, because it's true. We want the other person to love the way we do, or that we want them to do life often connected to the way, how we love, what we value, how we show up in the world. And when they don't, we want to change them, right? We want to fix it. We want to like teach them the thing. We want to like do everything. And then we try all those things, right?
Yep.
And none of them work. None of them work. They put the wall up higher and we're like, fuck, what is the way? And you're right. The way is radical acceptance of their values, and even finding the beauty in that value wherever we can, that's authentic for us, and coming back to loving the way that we love, appreciating our values, connecting with other people that can receive our love, right? Krishna is super devotional, and he's like has so much love to give. So he's like, I want to be with people that can bring that capacity back and that want to do devotion. It's like devotion.
Look, some other things that I came up with that I wanted to share. Create some new agreements. Like, don't assume anything. Create new agreements. And sometimes, especially when there are children involved or there are businesses, put them in writing. Because then it's a conscious effort to change them. Darling, I know we agree. I say darling. Darling, I know we agreed on this, but you know what? I need something different this week. Would you be willing to accept that? Rather than make the assumption that they'll do it just because I ask, or because I sacrifice so much and I give so much, and then I'm entitled to ask for it.
That's a really big one for people that have children, because people that have children in shared custody are much more aware of the sacrifice that they make than the sacrifice that their previous partner is making. And then that leads to an entitlement, because I'm aware of how I suffer to have the kids on the weekend or take care of the kids during the week or whatever it is. Therefore, I'm entitled to treat you like an asshole, be a bitch, ask for more money, ignore, whatever. It's like when we feel like we've suffered, and that suffering leads to entitlement. And especially, and I'm not now talking about Krishna and his previous partner, but anybody listening, when people have a bit of a victim thing, when people use victim to get their needs met, they will focus on how they suffer, because that then entitles them to get what they want. And it's in the hundreds of couples I've worked with, I've seen it way too often, and it's really sad. So I just want to acknowledge that is a dynamic that takes place all too often.
When we're attracted to somebody at the beginning of a relationship, there's often something that they have that we want. We want to be around it. It's like, oh, I want what she's got. And without realizing it, we've created a codependency for ourselves. So in my case, I wanted to be loved. She wanted a provider. And we had a beautiful codependency going. So to create a new relationship with this person, we can't have that codependency going on anymore. So for me, I've had to learn how to love myself. And that's the journey Scott's helped me with.
And the challenge, the other side of that, is how to show care for the other. So since the exchange was you were the financial provider, how to find that balance of still being supportive and finding the balance of providing that's within your integrity.
Yeah,
Especially when it's different from the way she still wants to be provided for.
absolutely. So we just had Christmas. I asked my PP what was on her wish list. And she gives me a list of all these things she wants. And you know what? I took off the new car because I didn't buy her that. But all these little things that she wanted on her list, I just gave them all to her as a Christmas present. Here you go. And she's like, oh, thank you so much. All these things she'd wanted for herself, and the skin treatment and all these things. I just bought all of this for her. And because that was how I wanted to just acknowledge and appreciate her. And I told her, I said, I want to thank you for the work that she and I have been doing on our dynamic. We've been doing weekly sessions with Scott for the last 52 weeks. It's been a tough journey. And I wanted to say thank you to her for that. And thank you, Scott, for that.
And how are you doing with providing all that for her?
Yeah.
How are you doing with managing any expectation or longing for her to, in some way, reciprocate? How are you doing?
I declare it. So I don't like these longings to show up in shadow. I like to be upfront with them. And I said to her, this is a gesture of saying thank you for the year that we've been working on our relationship. We have a better new relationship now than we had a year ago. And I said, you know what, the thing I would love for Christmas is, would you please sign off on that written agreement around the children? I have primary care of our children. I just wanted a piece of paper, just, I guess, recording what we had. And I said, this is what I'd really like. And that way, it's not in shadow. It's just out there in the open.
Yeah.
Because what I've learned is hidden agendas really wreck relationships.
I was just going to point to that. Is that it's, again, we all have wants and needs, and the way we want it is the way we want it, right? And being able to express what we want, like, oh, this is actually really truly what I want, is such a vulnerable place as well. And it's not like, I mean, it is, and what Emily said earlier is it is about allowing yourself just to let go. Like, hey, this is what I want. I want a new car. And well, I want a written agreement. And then we get to negotiate. We get to come to a place where things will feel good. And again, it's not always going to work out in the way that feels the most amazing. Like sometimes doing the right thing doesn't feel great. It's just about
Trish, I agree with you. Sometimes we negotiate, but sometimes we just give unconditionally. But deep down, we know we've got something we want. And I just find it's easy to be transparent with it, because sometimes people don't want to negotiate. They want to do something just because they want to do it, not because we've created an expectation. And I find relationships tend to be like that.
That's where you have to have self-reflection to know to what degree am I doing this with a fantasy, spoken or unspoken, of some form of remuneration.
Yeah.
And come on, we all do that. We all do that all the time. And it takes enough self-reflection to go, oh, wow, I think I'm being unconditional loving. I think I'm being, but there is a part of me that really does think, well, if I've done this, I kind of expect you'll do that because that's what you did before, or that's whatever, my imagination, my fantasy. So we do have to know what our fantasies are.
Correct. Now, in my instance, give to get's been a pattern I've done all my life. So I'm now bringing up negotiating with an ex. Oh, it's too hard. Now I just give.
Yeah.
I'm transparent with what I want in return. and maybe it'll show up and maybe it won't. And if it feels right for her, she'll give it. And if she doesn't, I've still given the gift because I've given it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Giving, it's like, again, when are we in the claiming of our values?
Yeah.
That's just, you got to just be in that question all day. Like, am I making choices from, this is how I want to be in the world, this is how I want to show love, like, this is, I don't care what they do, I might have desire, but like, am I in that place of like, it's not about them, it's about, am I living from my values?
Mm,
At the end of the day, like, I feel like that's what it comes back to.
yeah.
Like, am I being the person that I want to be in the world? Like, you are a generous man, you are a devotional man, like, you want to choose love, you want to give love. Now, of course you want to be reciprocated with that. However, regardless of other, that's still how you want to be.
Correct. Correct. You know what? It's so much easier being loved than having all this hate and toxicity in an ex relationship.
It's so
It's
much
just easier.
It's so much work to have all that like pain and all those stories and like the thinking about what they did or what they blah.
So, for comparison, 2 years ago, I hired a new personal assistant, and in my personal assistant's job description was negotiate care arrangements and swap overs around the children with my ex. That was where we were at 2 years ago. Now, you know what? Sunday evenings most week, we have family time. We meet at because we do a changeover, we meet at the beach. We'd spend an hour and a half together. The kids would have pizza. We're doing fire twirling and drumming together. There's no tension there anymore. We just hang out. There are no agendas. And we've come a long way. And we've had help though. Like Scott, let's not underestimate the role Scott's had helping us here. And we've done 52 weeks of this.
Yeah.
And we all just love Scott right now. Fan club right now.
Yes. And I think again it comes back to the strength, and I want to acknowledge the strength of both you, Krishna, and your PP.
Thank you.
PP, your commitment, the strength of the commitment to choose love over separation. That's it.
You know,
Thank you, Emily.
I'm looking at our comments that have been coming in, and Graham writes, I'm digging it, Krishna, rock on. And Anaprabha, one of our love coaches, writes, Krishna, that is a beautiful example of the divine masculine loving the divine feminine. And Trish, you have a lot of comments from a fan of yours. I'll let you read those later on. But a fan from Africa is sending you a lot of love. And Graham also writes, listening to you guys is so much more interesting now that I'm seeing someone. And this is very relevant for me. Thank you so very much. So thank you for the comments, everybody.
This is so, Amber Bauer says, this is so needed. Imagine the healing in the adults, but even more so in the children involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Of course, because children always want mommy and daddy ultimately to be together if possible. And if they can't be together, to at least like each other. I remember when I was supporting Katrina Valancourt through her separation from her husband that she had a son with. And I'll never forget this visual. Katrina and John, her ex, were walking together next to each other, not hand in hand, next to each other. And their son, who was about 6 or 7, came running up, took their hands and put their hands together as they were walking. And I'll always remember that visual because it is what children always want. You know, they want mommy and daddy to be together. If mommy and daddy can't be together, to at least be nice to each other, to at least still show love for each other. So important. So important.
I do want to answer Krishna's question here. He wrote a question. What happens when our PP has a new partner and the new partner projects on them a poison pill about me? Love this. I courageously, actually, this is what I recommend. It's a bold move. but to actually create connection with that person.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Where I'm like, hey, I want to, and you start, hey, I totally honor your partnership with, you know, blank, and I want you guys to have a great relationship. I'm here to support it, and I would, would love to know if you're willing to have a conversation so I can hear about what your needs are, and to just create a connection with you. I go bold, like, and go bold with the first thing you want to do is absolutely support the new partnership. But I would love to find out like what your needs are and just to create connection, to see if there's like a way that we need to understand about our needs.
Here's a really important reason why that's such a smart idea. Because when we haven't met the other person, whether it's the previous partner or the current partner, our imagination takes over and fills in the blanks. And the way our imagination fills in the blanks almost always creates way more separation, way more discomfort, way more hostility, way more yucky stuff than when you actually meet that person. But if you don't meet them, they become a phantom. They become, this phantom creature that your imagination's got all sorts of stuff going on around them. So, yeah, absolutely. Meet, connect, get to know each other. As Trish likes to say, be human together. Just be human together.
And champion the current partnership.
Mm-hmm.
I support you and blank's partnership. I want you to have a great relationship. I'm an ally here.
Yeah.
To this relationship. I'm not here, I'm not here to break you up. I'm not here to try to get in your pants. I'm not trying to and I want to hear about, create a good connection with you, hear about what your needs are.
And to do that authentically.
Especially if there's children.
Especially if there's children. Yeah. And to do that authentically, again, takes self-reflection. To look at, oh, wow, to what degree do I have jealousy? To what degree do I have a comparison, competition story going on? To what degree, when I look at the new partner, does it bring up jealousy, insecurity, all that stuff? Because we got to manage that to be in total authenticity about being 100% supportive.
That's commitment to the growth over and over again. It's like, if you want a relationship with your ex, you're going to have to be willing to feel uncomfortable, and you're going to have to do the work. There's no going there's no going around it. Like, you got to go, okay, I'm going in the pain, but I know on the other side I'm going to learn about myself. I'm going to love myself. I'm going to I'm going to grow to be a better human. I mean, ultimately this is what all this is about. It's like, but it's going to be uncomfortable. We need to do the work to authentically get there. So am I committed to grow?
I do have a sub question to this, and it gets really messy here. That what if you and your previous partner want to be friends, and they're not sharing with their new partner, and it's messy there. So what would you do? I know what I would do, because it fits in my values, but I really want to know what you guys would do.
Well, it's a tricky one, because if you don't tell the truth, then you're propagating a lack of integrity. And then if the new partner finds out that you are connecting with the old partner and you haven't been honest, then trust is broken, and then they have no idea to what degree is going on, right? Is there a flirtation going on? Is there sex going on? Is there the desire to have sex going on? So you got to head that off to the pass by being honest, as uncomfortable as it is in the short run. Otherwise, you're going to get bit in the butt in the long run.
I think
I'd love to respond to that if I may. I came across this question a little while back. I'm someone who's into negotiating agreements. And I'm someone who's like, put it on the table, let's make an agreement, and let's agree to what we can agree to. rather than presume or project and then be disappointed. So I started seeing someone who was very much threatened by the fact that I was doing coaching sessions with my ex, like weekly. Krishna, really? And she was threatened by it, saying, well, I'm investing in this relationship, you're going to get back with your ex. And I could see straight away what was happening. So I just said, you know what, here's my previous partner's Facebook page. Here's her Instagram account. By the way, I don't follow her on either, but you are welcome to. And if you want to reach out to her, you go right ahead. Because at this point, the children would have spoken about her, and it's not as if she would have been a stranger to the previous partner. But I also wanted this person to take a little bit of a responsibility, because sometimes it's not up to us to do all the growing. Sometimes the other people have to do it too. I wanted to raise a point, if I may: lawyers versus love coaches.
Love coaches are a lot less expensive.
Oh wait, is that the only
A lot less expensive, financially and emotionally. Just want to say.
So I've used both. Both have their benefits. I find when lawyers get involved, it actually really, really ends the codependency quickly, because they start introducing their own issues around trust, and they're good at ending codependency very, very quickly. The advantage of having lawyers is, if one partner is overgiving, if one partner is martyring themselves, when a lawyer gets involved, actually the result, it's deemed fair. And I use the word deemed because everyone's got a perspective, but there's a line drawn in the sand. And if one person had martyred themselves and given, well, then often expectations show up for the rest of their lives. But I did this for you, but I looked after you in the settlement. No. It's fair. We drew a line in the sand and we spent how much money getting this done. Anything I give you above that is a separate agreement, and we can agree on what the expectations are around. A year ago, I did want a written agreement around our children, and I was faced with a choice. Do I go back into court to get it? And I knew I'd get it because I already had the children. I'm asking for a piece of paper saying I want custody, but I actually had the custody. So I knew my chances of getting it were almost absolute. But I had a choice. Do I go down the path with Scott and Love Coach and actually say this is my intention and be upfront with it and create a new and better relationship with my previous partner? Or do I go the other way and it's a slam dunk, I'll get it, I'll have my day in court? And I chose to go down the Love Coach Academy path. And I have a better relationship with my previous partner. My children have a different level of security. I have had to grow in ways that I now appreciate. Thank you, Scott. And I'm not seeing a lot of disadvantage in this. Was it cheaper? Probably, but it was never about the money.
It took more time, less money. The litigation route or the lawyer route takes less time, more money. So you did invest more time. That once a week for 52 weeks was a lot of time. A lot of time.
The investment in love.
It's an investment in love. And look, something I've also learned is we believe we've outgrown a relationship or we've outgrown a partner. And maybe there's truth in that what we were originally drawn to in them, we're no longer drawn to because we found it in ourselves. But sometimes there are lessons we still have to learn from that partner. And if we don't learn it with that partner, it will show up in the next partner. Or the one after that, or the one after that.
Yeah.
So I've invested, you know what, probably Scott, you and I have been talking 5 years, and the relationship you and I have been talking about is a previous partner the whole 5 years. But I've gotten the growth.
Great. Krishna, thank you so much. We're going to kind of do one round of closing comments because, to be honest, I've been up since 6:30 working and haven't had dinner yet. So I still need to have some dinner. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey and your experience. And you know that I love you as a friend as well as a client. So closing thoughts. One last round of closing thoughts on tonight. Trish, you got one?
Just one.
Trish, you got 6?
Yeah, pretty much. You know, and really just to answer the question of how to quote unquote deal with your ex is really coming from the place of love, coming from the place of compassion and radical, beautiful, courageous acceptance for who they are. And really touching from your heart to theirs and really trying to understand what they wanted and needed and what they wanted. Compassion. Compassion is key in all life, including with your exes. And if any of my exes are watching right now, I'd really like to be your friend.
Oh.
I really do. I want that.
Mm. Mm.
My closing comment is get the support that you need to get back to love. And whether that's yourself, just honoring your heartbreak or the process that you're going with as it relates to your previous partner, make yourself a priority and get that support. Get the healing support that you need to learn the tools to manage your pain and love yourself. And once you get that in a good way, the next step would be like, how can you create amends and connection and closure with your previous partner? Like, how can you create the healing of what needs to be done? And often you need more support for that, you know, like maybe if they're willing to come into coaching with you. I know several people that I've worked with where I have supported the healing of their previous partner and bringing them into sessions, and or they've come to me and said, hey, we have a therapist we've been seeing for 3 years with my previous partner, often because there's kids, but um, but just like get the support that you need to get into love and to choose love, because often you can't get there by yourself.
Beautiful. Krishna, do you have a closing comment?
Yeah, I do. Thank you. Hold a vision. Decide what kind of relationship you want for your life, and envision it and hold that vision strong enough, and absolutely believe you'll get it and you will.
I love that.
Yeah. I think for my closing comment, I want to say thank you, Emily. You know, as a PP, a significant PP in my life. You know, thank you to Michael, your current partner, for his support of our friendship. Really appreciate that a lot. And I'm grateful that we can be friends. We can still, you know, she came over a few days before my birthday, and you know, we had a really beautiful few hours, and it really was one of the most wonderful few hours I've had in a while. So, you know, thank you very much for being a wonderful PP.
Yay, thank you, Scott. And I just want to say to the viewers, like, we still mourn together. You know, we get together and it's like, wow, I really wish that we would have had coaching support much. You know, we really made that a priority with our relationship transition. I wish we got help sooner. You know, we mourn the things of the things we said or the things we didn't have or the ways that we wanted to be that we didn't, or the choices that we didn't make because we were lost in our abandonment wound or lost in trying to make it work. And we hold that for each other as we get together. You know, it's like, I think that's a beautiful part of also having a connection or a friendship with your ex, is like you can continue to heal together.
And the key is it comes not from me demanding that Emily apologize for what she did wrong. It comes from me saying, you know, Em, I want to acknowledge I really feel bad about the time I did this or about this habit. It's got to come from owning what I did as opposed to demanding that she owns what she did. And that's really, really important.
And or mutuality. I'm mourning that we didn't get help sooner in our relationship. You know, like where you can create that level of where we both could have made the decision. So there's like a mutuality piece, if that's true, you know, that's another way to also bring things forth.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you everybody for watching. Tomorrow night on Saturday Night Alive for the Global Peace Tribe, we've got Marianne Williamson and the amazing Kristen Hoffman. If you haven't heard her play music, she is amazing. And it's all dedicated, tomorrow's show is dedicated to angels and miracle healing. And next week on Straight Talk, we've got a number of amazing people of color in honor of Martin Luther King weekend. And we're going to have a really powerful show all about healing, what it really takes to heal racial boundaries and racial barriers. So anyway, thank you, Trish. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, dear Krishna. Emily, do you see like how big his kids are? Remember what they looked like when we were there?
Like, oh my God.
I know. Talk about mini me's. I mean, there's definitely little mini Krishnas there. Yeah.
Beautiful family.
Yeah, they are. They're beautiful.